Dr. Flight, hope you're doing fantastic today. I wanted to put together a video that will help walk through some of the concepts of positioning, which is fundamentally important in most of what we do in marketing in general. And this is very much an idea of creating a image or persona or a space in the consumer's idea map or mind of where your brand fits or where your product fits. So the key here is being able to create distinctions in your product and your brand that consumers will recognize, and subsequently be able to discern your product from others and see that your product is designed for them. It helps set you apart. Excuse me. Determining who you are in the market and then deciding what you want to be, who you want to be, again, in the minds of the consumer, is what positioning is really all about. The key here is to very clearly understand who the market segments you're trying to reach, and understand what they value and what they need and they want in those, in there. Now, you could attempt to reach multiple target markets simultaneously. That's a strategy. But at the end of the day, you need to understand what that market segment really wants, so that you can match your value proposition to what they really want. So again, we're seeking to create a unique perception in the buyer's minds, and make our product more or less stand out from others. And to do this, we use our marketing mix elements. So remember the 4 Ps. When we design a marketing program, we're thinking about pricing strategies and distribution strategies and so on, and how we're going to communicate and things like that, to the extent that they match what our target audience is looking for. And so when we do that through distinctions of kind of what we offer versus what our competitors offer. But ultimately, we do need to find some consensus in terms of matching what our customers want, what they need. So we'll talk about this in a future videos or future classes, where we talk about differentiating yourself from your competitors. There are lots of different ways to do that, how to stand out or set yourself apart, distinguish yourself, if you will. And that's, again, one of those key concepts that consumers need to be able to distinguish one brand from another. But the question is how? How is one brand different? And it's often by some point of excellence that you've defined, whether it's through, and again, there's a bunch of these ways you can find competitive advantage, and again, this is another chapter's material or another thing, but just kind of thinking in the background, how do I set myself apart? Well, it could be by price, or it could be the innovative product features that we have. It could be our brand, what our brand logo is, and our brand identity. Brand equity is a big thing, so think about image that way. How our product performs, whether it's available in an easy place, easy location, if it's easy to access, the convenience of the product, who it's made by, and so on and so forth. So you can kind of see there are lots of different ways we can make points of difference. Key here is that these points of difference match what your market segment wants. So in other words, if you're launching a product and it's you're trying to hit a market like a luxury consumer market, price is going to be a very, very different differentiator. You can't have a low price and try to reach an exclusive market, for instance. It doesn't work. It's not compatible. There's a mismatch between what your position is and what the customer expects. Some things like that. So again, we'll kind of touch on some of those later. One of the tools that people use is something called a positioning strategy statement. And so we can create this. It's not it's not a real difficult task. You can put a lot of effort and energy into it. But when we create a positioning statement, it's a statement that helps very clearly define who we're trying to reach and what we're going to use to set ourselves apart. And so it works kind of like this, where and you can kind of fill in the blanks if you want. But you identify specifically who the target market is. And for this, you could use a customer profile. So there's a whole video on customer profiles, but you can create a narrative that describes who your target market is. And then they should buy, this target market should buy, and then describe your product rather than our competitors' products. And again, you can list what those products are. You want to look at your direct competitors who are also in the same market segment, who are trying to take market share from you from that market segment. And then here's the key: because of some unique sales proposition or differentiating feature that you have. So there's kind of 4 components here: who you're trying to reach, what you're trying to sell them, your value proposition, in context with your competitors' value propositions, and they should buy your product because of some distinguishing feature. So putting those together, you have, again, you can have a document here that describes this, but once you create this, it gives you the roadmap for your marketing strategy. So that's why this is important. That's why it's used, because it gives everybody who sees this in your company kind of understands what you're looking to accomplish and who you're trying to focus on and why and how that will work. So keep these statements simple, but make sure you prioritize the benefits that you're going to offer and that are going to be trigger points for your consumers to be able to write a compelling type of a statement. When you start focusing on those benefits, be sure to go back to your customer profile and confirm that what you're offering the market is what they want or what they need. It's a needs-driven process, and we're trying to again, I overuse this word, position the product towards what they need. Now, there's going to be some concepts here that deal with like how you position, and there are some specific errors that are associated with this. And again, these are sort of textbook errors, if you will. I'll talk a little bit about each one of these 4 things. And they deal basically with how broadly you define your product versus how narrowly you define your product benefits, and how unique or how believable you are. How believable you are to the market on those benefits that you want to deliver. So if you kind of look at this 2x2 matrix, we have 4 different conditions where you could possibly make mistakes in creating your positioning strategy. All right, one is called over positioning, the other is called under positioning. So when we under position, we fail to present a strong central benefit or a reason for the consumers to buy. They can't, the consumers, we haven't sold them, we haven't convinced them that this product is specifically going to meet their needs, their specific needs. Under positioning means you're too broad or you're not focused enough in getting your product features matched with the needs of your consumers. That's called under positioning. Now, going in the opposite direction, you can do what we call over positioning, when you make your product too narrowly focused to a group of consumers that are too small. A market segment or a niche that's incredibly small may want your product because it specifically meets their needs, but everybody else who is sort of around them really doesn't feel the product's for them. It's too special, or it's too narrowly focused on a group of consumers that ends up being too small, and that's problematic. That's something that we don't want to do either. So in one case, we're too vague and nobody really knows that the product's for them. It doesn't meet needs specifically enough. In the other case, we're too focused or too narrowly driven towards towards specifying our product, in a need way to consumers. And so those two things can happen, right? And again, if we kind of step back here, a too narrow versus a too broad type of positioning is the uniqueness of the claim that we're making. Now, we can also use uniqueness of claim, but balance this with credibility as well. So these are believable statements, but the position is either too broad or too narrow in over-positioning or under-positioning. Okay. The other two are confused and doubtful positionings, and these deal with credibility issues. Like you're making claims, but the market doesn't necessarily believe or understand what those claims are for. In a confusing positioning statement or position, excuse me again, the claims you're making contradict each other. So for instance, you may position your brand as a value brand, but you may set a high price. If you're a value brand, the market's going to expect a lower price. So what are you if you're setting your price high, but you claim to be a value offering? It's confusing. It doesn't make sense that those two things would go together. So if your marketing plan, if your actual execution of your marketing plan has strategies that are incompatible with each other, it's going to leave the market confused, and the market won't really know who the product's for. If the price is set high, the exclusive market segment might see the price and say, oh, that's for me, but it's a brand that's a value brand, and if I'm paying more, I don't want a value brand. Then the value customers are going to come in and say, hey, that's a value brand, I usually buy that, but the price is really high now. It doesn't make sense. It's incompatible. The last category here is when you make a claim that consumers simply don't believe is true, or they don't believe you can deliver on the claim of the benefit that they need or they want. It's doubtful that you'll be able to do that. Again, this might be one where maybe you're a brand that's known for average to lesser quality, and you start positioning yourself as a high performance type of a product. While it's confusing and doubtful, it's also unbelievable. It's not something credible that the consumers are gonna take away and think will actually happen. Okay, so this video again deals with some positioning concepts. What we kind of think about the positioning statement. It's a big takeaway when we look at this type of thing, and this idea of just bringing the product's benefits to the customer in their minds. That's again what positioning is all about. So quick video, just outlaying the concept of this. One of the tools that we use for this heavily is some type of a visual mapping. And so the follow-up to this deals with perceptual maps and kind of some of the techniques that are used when we start graphically illustrating where our product is perceived and where our customers are in terms of their needs. So when we do a mapping technique, again, it's statistically driven. We gather a bunch of data, we do analysis, and we overlay on a map what the customers want and what we are perceived to deliver. And when there's a match, then we've positioned well. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for viewing the video, and have a